moving forward, once a month, we're going to take 1 week a month where we just pick some different deals, maybe something that you're looking at, or maybe something that's caught my attention, and we're just doing analysis on them. So this is a for new investors taking a property and determining whether or not it's a deal that's worth looking at. That's what we're here for. We're here to help clear that up so that we can get better at recognizing a good opportunity when it comes our way. So if you're on the call, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what your thoughts are, what your questions are. So we'll go ahead and get started here in just a second. Somebody tell me in the chat box, what kind of deals are you working on? What are you focusing on right now? What are you thinking about when you go to bed at night or when you wake up in the morning? What kind of deals are you doing? Single family right now? Are you looking at multifamily? What do you need to know when it comes to the analysis side of the project? Let us know. Drop something in the chat. Alberto, what's going on, homie? How are you doing?
I am doing well. Doing
Glad
well.
you're here. Glad you're here, brother. So I got a couple of deals that we can look at. Unless you have something. Did you have something you wanted to go over today?
I think we can kind of take a look at what you have and then see where this conversation goes. We can take
So
a look at kind of what we talked about this morning. One of the flips that we have in the Heights right
okay,
now.
we'll
Yeah,
take a look.
and how
Yeah.
we can get to that point.
So it's 12:33 right now. We're gonna get into. I got a wholesale deal that looked kind of interesting. I know nothing about this, so this is all gonna happen live. So first thing when it comes to looking at these deals, we want to be efficient. So what's the first number when it looks like when I get a single family listing from a wholesaler like this? What is the first thing, Albert, that you want to know? If I'm asking you, hey, let's go on in this together, or maybe I need you to lend me money, or maybe I want you to buy this deal. What is the first question that comes to mind when something like
Well,
this crosses your desk?
yeah, so every investor is going to be a little bit different, right? I think we've kind of established that. Like everyone's goals are going to be a little bit different. Their resources they have available for a deal is going to be a little bit different. For me personally, I am looking in certain areas because I want to learn that market, right? So I think that's one piece of advice I'd like to give everyone
Hmm.
that's watching right now is find a market that you're comfortable with, or maybe you're not so comfortable with, but stick to that market and try to learn it as best as possible. So that's really the first thing that I look at when I look at wholesale deals because I get a ton of them in my inbox and I could be spinning my wheels, a lot if I'm just analyzing every single deal in every market that comes to my inbox. So that's really the first thing I look at is I look at zip codes that I'm focusing on.
How many
And
zip
then
codes? What's
Mhm.
what's a good rule of thumb? Like how many?
I currently look at about 10 zip codes, but they're all around each other, like inside the loop and south of I-10. So we're talking like Second Ward, Third Ward, Edo, Eastwood, all the way down to the South Loop, and
Hmm.
even maybe a little bit below the south of the South Loop in the 033 Sunnyside area. Those I'm just kind of looking in that central area. So things that are in Humble, Atascocita, Kingwood, way out west, Katy, Cypress, Spring, all these things that are kind of outside. If it takes me more than about 45 minutes to get there, if it takes me an hour to get there, me personally, I'm not really interested in that deal. I like to get to something where I can drive because I'm going to be driving to it 3 or 4 times a week, to check on the progress of the rehab and things like that. Is I want to make sure it's worth my time, unless it's just a banging deal, right?
Right, right.
But you're usually not going to get those banging deals from a wholesaler email that's coming to you. A lot of times you'll get those when you're kind of sourcing your own deals, or you know someone that is sourcing their own deals and they want to work with you, like partner with you on something. But that's what I focus on first is it in the market that I'm looking at? Boom, check that box. Great. Now, because I know that market, I already kind of know what price per square foot is in that market.
Yeah.
If we can go a little bit further, I can continue this answer with I'll take a look at the wholesaler's numbers just on the
Hmm.
surface, right? And I'll start applying like the 70% rule just to kind of get an idea of where we're at. And then I do my own due diligence. But if it kind of makes sense from that one, the first pass of numbers, then I'll dive in a little bit deeper. If it's in an area though that I'm really interested in, even if the numbers don't make sense, I'll probably still dive in.
Okay. So let's take this one for
Mhm.
example. This one just came to me from a wholesaler. So um, this we do this every day, multiple times a day. Clients will send us deals, and we'll go into to HAR. This is the agent side of it, HAR. And first thing that I like to do is I just like to know where it is. So
Mhm.
this is, and then the one of immediately at the same time, if it's a deal that's coming from a wholesaler, and so this is in Pearland, so this is a market that we have a lot of experience in. Um, you'd be surprised how many times as an agent I pull up a wholesale deal and the listing is actually active or it's under contract and it's actually a wholesaler, which it's that's not necessarily a bad thing. The reason why I say that's not necessarily a bad thing, it just shows that the wholesaler already negotiated a deal that was on the market. So there are some wholesalers that are finding deals that are listed and they're actually improving on the deals. Sometimes they're not.
I have
Some,
one of those.
yeah, you have one of those as a buyer.
Yes, I have one of those I'm under contract on that is listed on the MLS. And kind of going back to my first statement, where not every investor is going to do the same level rehab. You're going to have investors that might have $100,000 rehab because they're using a designer, an architect, and a GC, or you have a professional rehabber that has his own crews that can probably do it for half the price.
Exactly.
So their offer might be a little bit more aggressive than that first version, right? So I've got it under contract for a pretty good price, and I'm trying to wholesale it to
There you
people.
go.
So
There you go. Well, we can look at that deal if you want
yeah, we
to.
can,
So,
we can.
so this one's a pretty objective. Like nobody has anything to do with this. This came to me from a reputable wholesaler, and first thing I notice is I'm surprised that a home in this nice of a condition in this nice of a neighborhood, like I mean, this looks like new construction in some areas. So
Well,
first thing I want
that
to know is what the
if
after
you
repair value
if
is.
you
Go
back
ahead,
up a
bro.
little bit too, Austin, not to cut you off, but if you go down this road right here, that changes to 2013, by the way. Go over, go down. Yeah. So that changes to
Yeah.
April 2013.
So not
So
brand new, but it's
yeah,
still
but the
homes that are
house is
built like,
relatively new, right?
yeah, relatively like you could see that was in one of those shots that this was a vacant lot.
It's a
That,
nice looking neighborhood.
yeah, it's a real nice looking neighborhood. I would assume that everything on this is original if it was built in 2013. So I'm gonna pull up. As an agent, I can see if this has been listed before, and this never was listed before. And good eye, Alberta, it was built in 2012. So we want to get the after repair value. So a lot of people look at price per square foot. That's one metric that I don't ever pay attention to. In in my opinion, the price per square foot varies so much based on about 20 different variables. It was never listed, so I don't have any photos. Original owner. So it's very rare that you would see a original owner selling to a wholesaler, but you never know what's going on in their world. They
They did some
look,
refinances or
yeah,
something.
they've refinanced. Maybe they took out a second mortgage. I haven't heard of that happening much in the last few years. So, but what I do know about this property right now is that it is. uh, four bed, three bath, 2,600 square feet. And based on the satellite, another bit large factor that can affect home values is whether or not it has a swimming pool, which this one doesn't, but it does have a larger lot. But most of these homes don't have pools in it. So I think the pool is an important thing to pay attention to because it can change the value by $40,000. You know, and to
Okay.
me, it's like 50 cents on the dollar is what you get out of a swimming pool. That's a rough. So we're going to look at everything else. Now, first thing that blows up that I noticed is that there's a lot of green, and I
Mhm.
already
What does
start
that
to
tell
get
you?
kind of what's that?
What does that tell you?
It tells me that properties are not selling.
Right.
So I'm going to outline. I'm going to use an outline because I don't want to. I don't want to use a radius because certain, I don't want to cross like
Busy streets.
there you go, like a busy street, a railroad
Mhm.
track, a school zone, a city limit, and I can see that there's quite a bit of activity in this area. So now
Mhm.
I want to just kind of narrow it down to the size of the house. So we got I said about 2,600. So let's look at 2,000 square foot and more. And most of these homes are pretty similar.
Yeah. Pretty.
Lot on the market. So it's going to sell for, if it were to sell pretty quick, 2,600 square feet, it's going to sell for a lot less than what I think people are hoping for. Let's narrow it down to like um 22 to 3,000 square feet, like plus or minus 400. And quite a bit of inventory. Still not enough. We may be able to go a little tighter on the radius. I'm only going back 180 days. Lots of withdrawal and lots of expired, lots of terminated. So a lot of people trying to sell. Another thing that pops up to me is that there's a concentration of sold listings on the south side of this community, and there's a concentration of active listings. So there's going to be a story behind that. I don't know what the story is, but there's something. It could be these water access. It could be their newer homes. So we want to get a little bit tighter on these numbers. Um, this might be a little bit more accurate. So let's go to our results list. Alberto, tell me if I'm taking too long with this.
No, you're
Uh,
good. I mean, you're good, and I'm glad you're going through this because you and I have two different criteria, very similar but not the same
okay.
on how we would comp these.
I like to think of this as when I'm done with this, I could go like stand in front of a judge and jury and plead my case to
Okay.
that. You know what I'm saying? So like
Mhm.
I can see like this house a little bit bigger sold for 476, but it's surrounded by green. So I sorted all of these active and sold listings by price from high to lowest. And I can see these four green ones right here, kind of outliers. This one, I'm wondering if this one had a pool or, what was so special about this house?
Can you go back to the list?
Absolutely. So here's Mooring Drive,
Could be lot
13502.
size.
It could be lot size, and ours, and you know that ours has that lot size too, has that larger
Okay.
lot.
Okay.
Ours has a quarter of an acre. So that's showing let me go to Realist, get a little more data. It's all about that data. There's lot size 12,000. So there you go.
Mm, yeah.
So I could probably sell this for more money than, like, that might
Well,
be my cop right there.
that might be a good one, yeah.
But that 300 square feet might make a little difference. I want to make sure that this one doesn't have a pool. See, it does have a pool.
There you go.
So I'm going to throw this one out. I want to stay away from this number. So As an investor, you're not going to sell it for 476. Meanwhile, we got a 2,900 square foot, 2,600, 29, 2,400. This one, the 2,400 is cheaper, but we're probably not going to be able to sell it for 450. And so now I'm kind of getting down. So Orchard, Wind Lane, these are still bigger. This is an older house that sold for 222. This one's a little more comparable. This is 13,514 Mooring Point. Probably all original, no significant updates. Built in 2013, 2014. Probably original carpet. It wasn't that long ago, so it's not that it doesn't really probably doesn't need anything. I would expect buying this from a wholesaler, you know, if this was at auctions, like say this property was at auction and I'm not able to see it, I would
Mhm.
expect that my this house probably needs like 20 grand in work, including landscaping, power wash, maybe some paint and update. I'm sure there's some drywall damage, but you're not replacing the roof, you're not replacing the plumbing, you're not doing the electrical, you're not doing any of the major stuff.
Probably not even really painting that much. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for 2013, maybe just
I mean,
touch up paint.
these are new houses. These are 10-year-old houses.
Yeah, so they're asking 300. Um, I think we can get probably close to, if we were to sell it, we could probably get it 8 days on the market at 476. I would probably take this 163, 69 and go down. I never take price per square foot and apply it to a bigger house, but just to be safe, you could take it and go down
What happened to that
169.
comp that we liked that we just found?
This one, you're
The
talking
Mooring
about,
Point one. Yeah,
yeah,
that one.
this one right here. Yeah, this is the one that I think is safer to go with.
And what did that go for by
Yeah,
square
that sold
footage?
for 415, and Evan's asking 300. This is interesting to me, honestly. What do you think, Albert?
Can you go back to the marketing email and then go to click on see full photos
His
or
links are
see
broken.
full see photos.
Yeah, his links are broken.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Um,
Uh,
that seems a little bit steep to me. What was the original? So this is
The email said something about a leak and some sheetrock being
yeah, and that
removed.
was all
yeah,
20 whatever. It's 2,800 square feet, but it is so this is like 200 square feet. So yeah, you're going to be in I think you're going to be in the 300s, maybe high 300s when you're
I think
selling
so
this.
too. I think
So
so
you're
too.
thinking to yourself, okay, and it's a big property, right?
hmm
It's not small, so flooring alone can get pricey.
yeah.
If you got sheetrock repair, right, you don't have to worry about your big mechanical stuff like foundation, roof, electrical, plumbing. Um,
I think it.
that's too pricey for me, in my opinion. Um,
So I have. So what I'm looking at after repair value would be probably somewhere between 380 to 400 on the safe side. Potentially even 415 if the market improves, which the market is trending upward as far as sold listings go.
mhm.
And this took 39 days to sell at 415. They were just listed a little high. Like I think we can match this minus the 200 square feet. So if I took the 143 and 95 cents and multiplied it by the, what do we say, 2,600, that would put me about 375 to 380.
Yeah, that
I think
feels
that
right.
would, so if I can get this house at 300 and put 20 into it, not this house, but I don't have the
How mu-
interior.
how much is it going to, Alberto? I haven't even thought about updating the house or construction costs in years, right?
Mhm.
So I don't even know what costs are anymore, honestly. Um, what do you think? I mean, there's no photos, so it's kind of hard to tell, isn't there?
Right. So it just, what I'm thinking about a property this size, like I alluded to before, is just flooring alone.
Right.
And then it really depends on who your rehab team is. Yeah, I've seen flooring installed, vinyl plank flooring installed like 250, $3 a square foot. I've seen
Hmm.
it as high as 450 a square
Hmm.
foot. That's installed. That's labor and materials.
Hmm.
Something in between, let's say 350. But let's say you have to replace all the flooring. And, unless you're going to go look at this and the flooring is in good condition. So if you're replacing all the flooring
Mm-hmm.
at 2,600 square feet at 350 a square foot, that's $9,100.
Javi
So you're getting
Airbnb
close
is
to,
on the call. Javi, you can jump in if you want to speak to that
yeah, you're getting
because
close to 10 grand just for flooring. Not a big
Yeah.
deal if you get this at the right price.
Right.
so if you're doing flooring
What's the
paints,
strategy? Is this a flip or is this going to be I mean, you wouldn't
well, what I
do
want to do
zero
is I want
down.
to look at both here because I do want
Okay.
to run a rental comp on it, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
we can look at that real quick. First thing I like to do, not go to Amazon, amortization, uh, is go to an amortization calculator. If I can get this at, just for instance, say we can buy it at 300,000 and I'm going to mortgage it for 30 years. Interest rate's going to be a little bit higher because it's not my primary residence right now. Interest rates are at 6.7. So if I can get it at like 7.5%, and I'm going to put 20%, I'm probably going to put 30, no, like 25% down.
That's
I'm going to
75.
actually, I might actually finance 225,000. So I want to keep in mind that, can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Hmm.
I'm going to keep in mind that my mortgage payment is going to be about 1,600 plus taxes. And so we can talk about
Oh,
that here
and
too, but
insurance.
and insurance. We don't know that yet, and I'll tell you how to get that number. So taxes right now, this is public information. These are the taxes that are before any exemptions. So as an investor, we're not going to be getting any exemptions. It was appraised at 422. Like I kind of want to go see this house now that we're looking
Yeah.
at it,
Yeah. Is
but
my ARV is kind of like we're at the low end of that range at like 375 is kind of where I would be
yeah,
on the ARV.
I would be comfortable at 380. Um,
Okay.
your taxes, and we'll probably need to do this more in a different episode where we break down the expenses because you'll need to know your income, which we're going to look at here in just a second, and then subtract your expenses. And we're trying to beat this number. We're trying to have a positive cash flow that beats that number. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take our subject property of Sorrel Ridge and I'm going to run comps again, but I'm going to run it from the lease side. So I want to know, and this is important, even if you're only looking at um, flipping, you know, you still want to know if it works as a rental.
Hmm.
Um, because as some of our investors know that in the last 6 months they were flipping houses and the market went down and
Yeah.
the numbers ended up not working for them. And so you always want to plan B.
Yeah.
Uh, for some of us, leasing it's going to be our plan A, flipping it's going to be plan B. But usually the the safest investment is a long-term play. And so I can see this is interesting to me. So these are all leases in this community in Shadow Creek. A
Okay.
lot of red. So
Yeah.
this is
That's
actually a
good.
strong lease market too.
Yeah.
Um, see this one. This one leased for 2,800. Dude, I think I found a good deal. That's on the market for 3,300. This one leased for 3,300, but it was on the water. 2,850. A little bit bigger house, but 2,800. These over here, 2,300. Smaller. So we can definitely get more than 2,300. We can probably get 25, 2,600. Um, I'm gonna sort this by price.
Mhm. Sometimes when I'm looking at lease, looking for rental comps, I do like to go out a little bit further than 6 months because, those leases expire like every year.
Yeah,
Yeah. So sometimes I'll go between 9 months and 12 months back.
we can go 12
But and
months
it's
back.
affordable. And I look at primarily the size, like the square footage, and also bedrooms, right? Is I don't necessarily want to compare like a three-bedroom to a four-bedroom. If
Yeah.
my subject property is four-bedroom, then I really want to focus on finding other rentals that are also four bedrooms.
These
Right.
are these are so my response to that is yes and no. Because
If you
I
got the
have,
data, why not?
yeah, uh, I would go ahead and take a look at like this three bedroom right here. There are communities where the bedroom count is going to weigh more than the square footage count, and there are communities where the square footage is going to weigh heavier than the bedroom count. And you just
Okay.
have to look at those communities individually. So it's not always going to weigh, the bedroom's not going to always weigh more. And this is probably a really good example. 2308 Shadow Falls, 2,900 square feet. It's right there. It's right in the thick of things. It does
Damn.
not look like this bedroom count of three is affecting this comp. It's not affecting the lease value of this house. You come down here, same thing here. I mean, this is pretty consistent. 2,800s,
Hmm.
26, 26. So, I mean, even worst case scenario, we can probably get 2,700. I mean, that's not a lot of variance in these comps. So, we're gonna end the call early. I got some calls to make. I'm just kidding. What do but this one looks really interesting. So, just assuming that everything about it is that there's no like critical damage or like a notorious serial killer killed people in this house or something just bizarre that happened. It looks like a pretty decent deal. If I was a listing agent, I probably would have listed it, minus 20,000 repairs. I probably would have listed it in the mid 300s just as an agent. What are your thoughts, Albert? Any questions so far?
Um, yeah, I mean, I kind of like it too. If you can, your rental comps. What was the number you kind of landed on rent estimates?
20,
You said
anywhere between
27?
20, yeah, 27 to 2,800.
Okay, yeah. So then you're looking and now what are taxes like? Because taxes and insurance can kill a deal very quickly.
Oh, taxes and insurance will be more than the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
let's
we
talk
were
about.
looking at just PI, right, on your mortgage calculator, correct?
So yeah, this is just principal and interest. So we're around 1,600. So we got about 1,100 to play with as far as expenses go. And so let's break that down. So the first expense that we need to know is our taxes.
Mhm.
So these are the taxes um without the
Exemption.
yeah, without any exemptions. Now, you can see what you want to look at is not just what the taxes were in 2024. What we're going to do is we're going to predict what the taxes are going to be in 2025. And we're going to go back and see that they've had very little. They've had $1,000 an increase in the last 2 years. So I would just average these two increases and then add. So I would assume that taxes will be about 11 grand. Do you agree?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So
conservative.
that's about 916. So that's most of our expenses right there is just going to the taxes.
Yeah.
So now the deal's starting to not look that good. So now I have like $200 in cash flow. Now I got to pay for insurance.
Yeah, landlord insurance.
Yeah, which would be what would you have more properties like this than I do, but
Well, that's a pretty big house. So,
Right.
I mean, it's not in the flood zone, so that's good, right?
hmm
Yeah. So that could be close to 2 grand, I think. I mean, our landlord insurance that we have a larger house, but it's in Leak City. Um, I think it's a little over 2 grand now.
yeah. So now we're at 150 to $200 a month for insurance, and now we're
Yeah.
breaking even.
Yeah, I'm paying a lot. I mean, mine really went up. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. A lot of people's insurance policies are just,
You know,
yes, going
never had
up.
a claim. It's just I don't know why.
Yeah, I've been
You
there.
know.
So this one, as a rental, just because the insurance, it's not the insurance that's hurting this deal, it's the taxes.
Yeah. So even if so let's say, what makes this a good deal, Austin? Like they're offering it at 300. So considering that we just kind of did a back of the napkin estimations for taxes and insurance, go back to your mortgage calculator and figure out like what do you need to get this property at for it to make sense again.
Well, here's it depends on the philosophy that you choose to have. As far as a flip, this still looks like a great deal so far because those holding costs are going to be temporary,
Hmm.
and you're only going to pay 90 days of taxes if you can rehab it and get it listed quick. Um, in
Mm,
fact, in a market that's trending upward, we've had plenty of people. I think you and I spoke about this earlier that we know plenty of people that in 21, 22, because they took too long, the values actually increased more by waiting than if they had flipped it in less than 90 days.
right.
So now here's the big question I think that is important. And by the way, if you're subscribed and I have your email, I'll send you the notes and the replay of this video. Does it have to cash flow? Now, most of you are hearing me ask that question and are thinking, well, yeah, what's the point? If it doesn't cash flow, what's the point? Well, let's let's talk about that. So, does everything have to cash flow, and is there such thing as a win-win with negative cash flow on an investment property?
Yes.
Albert says yes. You can leave a
I say
chat. Is there
yes because I
such thing
got
as a
negative cash flow properties. That's why I say yes. It's a win because I've got a couple negative cash flow properties. Not hugely negative. Well, maybe one is, but two of them are slightly negative. And my entry fee, so that's kind of like what money did I put into the deal,
Mhm.
is lower. It's not $75,000. It's not even, it's like less than half of that. And if I'm negative cash flow $100 a month, but the house was built in 2021, so pretty much brand new almost,
Right.
I'm okay with investing 20 grand in a property that was built in 2021 and I'm only having to pay $100 mortgage,
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, I think anybody would take something like that,
Right.
and so I've got a couple deals that are like that. So I don't always need cash flow. I think it also depends on what stage of life you're in. I
hmm
think people that are maybe younger, that have a longer investment time horizon, right, can afford to kind of take some of these negative cash flow properties as they naturally appreciate with the market, things like that. You've got the mortgage pay down that your renters or tenants are paying down. and you've got these other tax benefits. But I think if you're nearing retirement or you're already in that retirement like phase of your
Hmm.
life, you may need that cash flow, right? To kind of pay for your lifestyle.
Right.
So you're really
Right.
looking for more, you're more of an income investor, right? Instead
Right.
of this value investor. Does that make
Well,
sense?
I had a realization about 2 weeks ago. Um, and this was just from talking to a buddy, and he gets um, like a partial, because he's a veteran, right? He's one of these partial rating guys, or I don't know exactly. I'm a veteran, but I'm not disabled. And if you go to the county, each of these different counties have a different allotment for that, right? Like if
Hmm.
you're X% disabled, they'll give you six, $7,000, $8,000 off your taxes, whether or not you're living there, right? So some of this can apply to rental property,
Mm.
depending on
Right.
what county. I'm just starting to research this. And man, this would be a screaming deal if that $11,000 of property tax was three,
Hmm.
Yeah.
right? You know,
Yeah.
it it would cash flow. Now I don't know what the rate of return would be. I mean, the other thing too is I think you could probably not have to put 75 grand down,
Right.
right? From the
If you
300.
can, yeah, and I was just being conservative, but if I buy it for 300, and I want to talk about appreciation versus your down payment. So if I'm at 300 and I put 20% down,
Mhm.
that's an
That's
investment of how
60.
much?
That's
That's
60,
60,000.
Hmm.
That's
right?
60,000. But the average annual appreciation in real estate is about 5%.
Yeah.
So
About 6 for 10 years in Harris County. It was
sure.
6, up
So
until the pandemic.
for easy math, let's say 5%,
Let's say
and
5.
let's say that we make no improvements, we don't make any improvements on the property, and it's 300,000. What's the annual appreciation on 300,000 at 5%?
I don't know, 15 grand of, wait a
It's
minute,
15
10,
grand,
10%, 10% is 30 grand,
Yeah.
right?
right?
Yeah. So
So it's
15
15
grand.
grand.
Hmm.
So check this out. Your what you earn in appreciation is based on the value of the property.
That's
So I
right.
just earned 15 grand, but that's not a 5% return on my investment.
On your 60K, right?
15 grand on my $60,000 investment,
Mhm.
that's 25% return, annual return in appreciation alone.
Yeah,
So
good
when you
point.
go to Vail this winter and go skiing, or when you go, when you go to the beach resort, you know that all these investors that own all these property, none of these guys are cash flowing. You go to any other major market outside of Houston, you go to New York, LA, even Atlanta, Nashville, most of those investments, they're cash flow negative. But the
Mm,
reason that so many people are happy and comfortable purchasing those types of investments
because
is
it,
because of the long place, that appreciation.
yeah,
And appreciation alone on this house in Pearland, we're making 25% return on our money and just
yeah,
the appreciation.
right,
So to buy it and not cash flow is not the end of the world.
right, right.
So we got,
As long as you can afford it.
well, yeah, you've got to have, it's like a investment. Now,
So how short? Let's go back to our rental example. So we're getting $2,700 in the door. So we got 1,600 in P and I, another 900 in tax, and
mhm,
another probably what,
buck 50 in insurance.
a couple $100 in insurance. So we're 1,100, 1,600, 20. We're breaking even.
We're breaking even. We don't have a property manager. We're
Yeah,
not we're not budgeting any money for maintenance. Uh, the thing better stay 100% occupied, or we're
yeah,
going to take a big hit in December. So there are a lot of expenses that we're going to lose money on but that may be for a year or two, get
Well,
the
then
rents
that's a
up.
that could be a reserves discussion, though, right?
Correct.
Like, what is your like you know anybody that runs a business is going to have a risk management set of rules for that. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm sure Alberto has his, right, based on I don't know how many properties you've done now, but it's probably what 30.
Close. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Um,
there's a lot of ways you can get that reserve because, and I know we got like 4 minutes left, but when you purchase, if you say you purchase it with a bridge loan or hard money, and
mhm.
you do those repairs, and you decide to hold it, you could take cash out, like you'll have instant equity in that deal, and then you'll refinance it into a conventional
Yeah.
loan, like a 30-year loan. So.
Mhm.
So here's some operating expenses just to keep in mind if you're going to hold the property. You got to know property taxes and insurance. That's almost everything you need to know. There is property management. Property management is going to run about 8 to 12% if you decide to go
Oof.
that route. It's usually not sensible to do that unless you have a large portfolio. Maintenance, budget 5 to 10%, vacancy. Probably 5%, depending on the market. You will want to know that number, especially if you get into larger commercial properties. You need to know your vacancy, market vacancy. Utilities, that's not going to be applicable here. HOA dues, you will have to pay that. And that could
Yeah.
be, maybe $50 a month or $100 a month. It just depends. If you're buying condos, those HOA dues are going to be hundreds of dollars a month, 6 to 8, depending on the condo. And then other things like pest control, lawn care, those are minimal. Well, lawn care can be $150 a month too, so that could be up there. So, any ahas or takeaways from that one? We're gonna have to keep doing this at least once a month. Just keep analyzing deals. We got some comments in the
Well,
could
that's
be
why I'm
AI.
here. I
Yeah.
haven't done this in forever.
We'll do this again. Our plan right now is take the first show of the month, first Monday, and just look at deals, analyze deals. We want to hit. I know Albert has a bunch of good deals we could be looking at right now. We want to hit more single family. We want to hit 2 to 4 units. We have a request to analyze vacation rentals. So going into the
Mhm.
summer, that might be the next thing to look at. And then,
Mhm.
of course, going into the fall, we'll plan on looking at commercial assets, how to evaluate based on their financial performance and lending requirements. We'll talk about cap rate, DSCR, IRR, all those fun things. So, any other questions from anybody? If you want to drop a question in the chat box or come off mute, feel free. We'd love to hear from you.
I'd like to
Yes,
add,
sir.
at least the people that are here, and then once you post this to YouTube, I think it's also fun to bring deals to the group, right? It's
Yeah.
maybe something that you're looking at,
Mm.
that you need, just want to go through the paces on. I think the next one that we do, Austin, I'd like to do it from a consumer side because you're doing it from the agent side. So
Mhm.
not everyone that is looking at the YouTube videos are going to be agents. I know there are a lot of agents on the calls themselves. And so I can show people kind of how we do it on the consumer side,
Yeah.
by using tools that
Perfect.
are available for consumers. So
Live is requesting duplex, fourplex, etc. 100%. Well,
yeah.
Yeah.
when it
Me
comes to
too.
even to duplexes to fourplexes, I kind of look at those as a 60 unit. We still need to know income minus expenses, net operating income. You can get a cap rate. I mean, you can get a cap rate on single family rentals as well. So we can
Mhm.
definitely go over that. So we'll hit that for sure. So I appreciate that. Mark, appreciate your
Yeah.
contribution
Thanks for joining, Mark.
today.
It's good to see
And
you again, buddy.
Yeah.
everybody else on the call, thank y'all for being here. And we'll see you next Monday. Don't forget, Check My Real Estate. We do a happy hour. Everybody is invited
What?
every third Thursday. So shoot me a text, and I'll
Oh,
send you the invite. And then YouTube.com/Austin from Houston 12. Go subscribe to YouTube channel. This replay will be available here in about 30 minutes.
Austin
Thanks,
from who?
Meta. The 12. Yes, sir. All right. Have a great
Right.
day. Bye.